Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this town hall. I'll be brief because I want to leave a lot of time for your questions. As a reminder, please send your questions to stayinformed@salisbury.edu, and we'll answer as many of them as we can before we leave tonight. If we're not able to get to your question before the end of the town hall tonight, you will get an individual response from Stay Informed. I have my radio voice on today because I've had a head cold for the last couple of days, but let me give you a few updates before we get into the shared governance part of our town hall. As you know, last week, the university health team recommended an additional step down in our COVID protocols. So masks are now optional in most places on campus. Masks are still required in classrooms, instructional laboratories, and in a few other circumstances. But this latest step represents a major milestone in our recovery from the COVID pandemic. Throughout the past 2 years, you've done what's necessary to keep our campus safe and keep each other safe. And that continued care and vigilance is allowing us to continue to roll back our safety protocols. I also want to provide some updates in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Last week, I announced some new requirements for students and employees. Moving forward, all students will be required to complete diversity training. This was already mandatory for employees and now will be required for students. This summer, we'll begin rolling out specialized inclusion advocate training, and this training will be a new requirement for those who wish to serve on search committees. It's really important that we take decisive actions to ensure that our faculty and staff reflect not just the student body, but the broader community, and this will help us in doing that. And lastly, I announced mandatory diversity leadership training for all staff serving at the assistant director level or higher. These are just some of the steps we're taking to follow up on the campus climate study recommendations. I want to thank the leaders of shared governance for your support of these initiatives, and I'm especially grateful to the faculty and administrators who are working hard to incorporate DEI into our curriculum. I also want to encourage all of you to submit nominations for this year's President's Diversity and Inclusion Champion Awards. It's important that we recognize members of our campus community who are actively engaged in creating a more inclusive environment for students, faculty, and staff. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Dane Faust, Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. Dane, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. White. I'm glad to be here with everyone, and I wanted to talk about a few things this afternoon. First, wanted to talk a little bit about enrollment and bring the campus community up to speed on some of the things that we're doing in that area. Also wanted to talk about safety and some of the crime concerns that we've recently seen, and then finally follow up a little bit about some of our mental health services. So first, I'm going to start with enrollment. A big thank you to everyone that helped support Scholars Day and Admitted Student Day last Friday and Saturday. These events are really important to the university as we engage prospective students in what SU has to offer. You know, the energy was really great and the attendance was really strong too. On Friday, Scholars Day, we had 132 prospective students attend and a total of 305. And then on Saturday, we had 409 students attend, and total attendance was over 1,025. In regard to fall enrollments, as of today, we have 636 first-year freshman deposits. That's up 97 students from this same time last year. For transfers, we have 161 deposits, which is up 7 from this time last year. I'm also happy to report that even though it's early, our overall new student enrollment numbers are looking pretty good right now. Similarly, our graduate student numbers are looking strong as well. And I do want to remind the campus we have a second admitted student day on April 4th, and our final open house is on April 23rd. So our plan is certainly to finish strong for the spring semester and then transition our prospective students to orientation programs and a strong summer communication plan. Right now, the second admitted student day looks really strong as well. Our early RSVPs include 339 students and a total of 854 altogether. And we still have a few weeks left to register. So really hoping to continue this forward momentum. Transitioning to other items, I want to offer a thank you to Chief Lashley and Chief Duncan for attending SGA Forum yesterday evening and addressing some of the safety concerns that we're seeing across the community. Many of you are aware of the recent emergency alerts and follow-up communications that have gone out. Last night's conversations with the student body were helpful for our allied partners to hear our concerns and to offer their input and their suggestions. We've asked for city police to offer a stronger visible presence in areas off campus where students live. University Police already has a memorandum of understanding and patrols the vicinity of campus on a regular basis. Recently, they added the Williams Landing area to their patrol or the Williams Landing area to their patrols as well. Chief Duncan last night urged our students to immediately report and call the police if any uninvited guests would show up at a person's home. We've reached out to the students involved that were victims in this past weekend's situation, and we're showing all the support and care that we certainly can. We've also held a series of meetings with our local landlords, as well as some of our bar and restaurant owners. In addition, from some of those meetings, we've conducted a safety walk at the Williams Landing property with city police, university police, the owner and the management of the property, Student Government Association, a resident of that community, and student affairs staff. And we have another walk planned. We actually had it planned for this Wednesday, but with the rain expected, we may defer to Thursday on that. We've also asked the landlords to share their security measures that they use with measures that they use with the university so that we can make students aware of some of the measures, which include additional lighting. Some of our landlords have rented security services that they use on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Some of our landlords have home alarm systems. And so we've asked them to share those measures with us so that we can post them publicly for students to know. We will certainly continue our meetings and conversations with the city and with the landlords and the bar and restaurant owners, and we'll continue to do everything we possibly can to keep the campus community safe and alert them to concerns that may arise. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health. I'm really delighted to welcome Lori Scherer to SU. She comes from St. Mary's College, and she's serving as our new counseling center director. She's only been here a few short weeks, but she's making connections and getting to know the campus community very well. We continue to use Timely Care services. In fact, according to our February report, 9.2% of the student body has downloaded the Timely Care app. The average wait time to be seen ranges from 4 to 6 minutes after a student downloads the app and signs in. Student evaluations of Timely Care have been really strong. However, the Campus Safety Task Force is in the process of conducting an evaluation of the Timely Care product so that we can compare our results to the data that we're receiving from Timely Care. And if the results are positive, I imagine we'll continue to use Timely Care into next year as well. And finally, we're also soon to be ramping up our process to fill the vacant counselor positions and hope to have those positions filled by summer. So there's a lot going on in all three of those areas, and I appreciate all of our partnerships as we try to continue to increase our enrollment, make the campus safer, and make sure that we're attending to students' mental health needs. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wormack to talk about items associated with budgets, as well as some projects that are occurring on campus.
Actually, Dane, I think we're going to make a slight change, and we're going to go to our shared governance group. So Vanessa Collins, you'll be up first.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'll be speaking a little bit about what Staff Senate does and what we've been doing this year. We are a very engaged group of 13 senators and CUS representatives, which is Council of University System staff. We all have a stake in the policies and decision-making that affect us. So I want to thank Dr. White and the exec staff for their support of Staff Senate and for all of shared governance groups. Staff Senate meets on the second Thursday of every month. For most of this academic year, we've met in a hybrid fashion, but January and February were fully virtual, but we'll be back to hybrid this month. We've recently revamped our website to better communicate the actions and recommendations we've submitted. You can find us under Campus Governance or just enter Staff Senate and SU's search function. After you find us, look right under Welcome to the Staff Senate website and click on Current Staff Senate Recommendation to see what we've been up to. And we have been busy. So far this year, we have submitted 5 recommendations and have a few more in the pipeline. Along with the original recommendations, you'll also find the responses from SU's exec staff. As staff members, whether we're working in the middle of a pandemic or in normal times, we all have a story. We all have different things happening in our professional lives and in our lives away from the office. Part of what Staff Senate advocates for is helping find ways to balance between our professional lives and our private lives to make things just a bit easier. We also want to find ways to promote professional development, help clarify new work expectations, and ways to advocate for the recognition we deserve as a hardworking and dedicated workforce. So to that end, I'd like to draw your attention to the Staff Senate suggestion box, which can be found on the left side of the Staff Senate webpage. This is a place where any employee can send us a suggestion, concern, topic of interest, anything along those lines. Your name and email address are optional, but please understand we cannot directly respond to anonymous submissions. However you decide to submit, your suggestion will be received and addressed at our monthly meeting. Also on our website, you'll find our meeting minutes and snack and chat presentations from this year, which we've had some really fabulous ones, and we really appreciate everyone that has presented for us. So I just want to thank you again for joining us this evening, and just know that we are out there and we are available to take your questions or listen to any of your concerns that you have. Just send me an email or send it through Staff Senate, the suggestion box, or any of our other senators that you'll see listed on our website. Thanks again.
Everyone, I just want to extend a quick thanks to Dr. White, Eli, the exec staff, and shared governance for holding this town hall. I think it's really important to have more of these moving forward, and I hope to be a part of those moving forward as well. I'm going to keep it very brief because I want to get to our question and answer side of things. And much of the information I'm going to be saying is just repeat from yesterday's forum. So if you're already there, you'll be hearing this twice. First off, in regards to some of the recent vacancies that we've experienced within SGA, I'm happy to announce that 2 of those vacancies have been filled. Chance Crockett is now our new Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the remainder of the semester. And then Jeremiah Taylor is our new Chief Justice for the remaining semester as well. So I just want to give a quick shout out and congratulations for them to stepping up to the roles. And I look forward to working with them in the coming few months. With that, though, the remaining positions that have been vacant because we're so close to our election period will remain vacant until we have our round of elections. Those elections in the process forum is actually going on right now. To be eligible to run, any undergraduate student here at Salisbury University is eligible to run. You have to attend 1 interest meeting and 1 rules meeting. And then any additional requirements to run will be explained at those meetings as well. The very first interest meeting is going on in 16 minutes in Henson 103. So sorry for those in attendance that cannot make that. But there is another one in the Nanacoke room March 9th, so 2 days from now at 7 p.m. And then for the rules meetings, those are going to be March 15th at 7 p.m. in Henson 103. And then another one March 16th at 6 p.m. in the Nanacoke room, respectively. If you cannot make any of those dates, we're more than happy to do individual meetings as well. So you're still eligible to run for executive board positions. Just reach out to our Chief of Staff, Diane Kalita. You can find her, or you can reach out to her at her email address, sgacos@gulls.salisbury.edu. We look forward to seeing your name on the candidate list. And any additional information regarding the elections will be at those meetings. I wanted to get into a little bit of the events that we have coming up here soon. So we have our yearly I Love Salisbury event. That's going to be Saturday, April 30th. And we'll have a ticket on University Tickets website coming up soon so that you and your organizations can sign up. We also have our Pine for Pink event. We did this last semester in Red Square. This is just to raise money for breast cancer research. That will be Thursday, March 17th, from 11 to 3 p.m. or 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Red Square. And then finally, we have a Narcan training event coming up as well. That will be Friday, April 1st from 2 to 4 p.m. In the Nanacoke room. Those will be in 30-minute sessions. And if you join as well, you'll be signed up to win a gift card as well. Finally, we introduced legislation last semester for the Future Act. So this is for carbon net neutrality for public universities in Maryland. The act is still going through the Maryland legislature, but we recently put out testimony to the Maryland legislature in support of this bill. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to our Director of Sustainability, Abby Patinati, as well as Madison Cuthbert, for leading the charge on this within our organization as well. That's all from my end of things. So I wanted to pass it now over to the president of our Graduate Student Council, Jessie, to update us on her side of things. Jessie.
Thank you, Andrew. It sounds like you all have a lot. So my name's Jessie Strange, and I'm the Graduate Student Council president. A couple things that we're really working on in the Graduate Student Council department is we are setting up our last few meetings as this current board for March 18th, April 15th, and May 6th, which are all going to be Friday evenings at 5 o'clock, and they'll all be over Zoom just because graduate students have different responsibilities than undergraduates, and so we need to have more of a virtual presence than an in-person presence. In addition to that, we really are working with the graduate department in kind of highlighting graduate student research and some of the things that we're able to accomplish in a broad range of programs that we have, including 2 doctoral programs and several master's programs with different advisors. And finally on my docket is going to be our graduate gala, where we celebrate our graduates. And for that this year, we're looking at doing something a little bit different, a little bit more outside, and a little bit more open. And again, those previously mentioned dates, they're actually going to be open for all graduate students. We're not just going to have them as council meetings, we're going to combine the council meetings with all graduates so that everyone can feel free to attend. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Olmstead now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessie. And I'm delighted to be able to be here today. I'm actually in a virtual site visit to a campus in New York State. So I've been in Zoom all day and I didn't know if I'd have a chance to be here. So I'm happy that I am. I sent out my first Monday email to academic affairs, faculty and staff, and our partners. So most of my news is in there, but I just want to underscore something I mentioned, and that relates to cybersecurity. You should have gotten an email from IT this afternoon about the importance of really attending to cybersecurity. Your passwords, don't fall for clickbait, don't fall for phishing emails. Really double down on that. The situation in Ukraine obviously is one that affects them tremendously, but it could reach to us through cybercrime. So please attend to that if you can. And I'm trying to think if I have any other updates. I think they're probably all in my Monday email. I'm happy to take any questions at the end, though. And I think Dr. Wormack is coming online, and she may be able to talk to us now about the budget.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm sorry for my delay in getting online, but I was having some technical difficulties, which I'm sure we've all run into before. I do have a couple of updates on the budget, and if Dr. White will let me share, I'm happy to share some other comments and updates about what's going on in administration and finance. So as you know, our FY22 budget was about the total budget was about $191 million. And so we had anticipated revenues, including a projected 2% tuition increase, 0% in mandatory fee increase, and a 2% room and board increase, and a 6% undergraduate. We had projected a 6% undergraduate enrollment decline and a slight incline in our graduate programming. It also included one-time funding of $14.7 million made up of $8.4 million in the American Rescue Fund, or what we call HERF, HEERF, funding of $8.4 million and $6.3 million in our fund balance. So that's what we had projected. And in January of 2021, as many of you know, SU received $3.5 million for compensation from general state funds to cover the cost of COLA, merit, and a one-time bonus. So that was added to our budget late in January. And many of you should have already seen most of that come through in your paycheck. So with that, and with where we are currently in the FY22 budget, while we have a slight decline or revenue decline of $3.2 million, we planned effectively with some budget contingency, et cetera, which is allowing us to maintain our budgets where they currently are, meaning we're not asking anyone to reduce their budgets at this point in time. We think we've done a great job as an institution of managing and containing costs and with the help of our budget contingency. So that's where we are in FY22. If anything changes in there, I'll certainly let you know. Just a heads up on FY23, we are working, there's so many things going on this year. We are working to finalize the preliminary FY23 budget. We are planning for the budget to be open and available to the college community and those divisions, so you can start planning your budgets with guidance from your division heads. And we anticipate releasing that this week. Currently, our budget plan calls for those anticipated salary adjustments in line with the governor's proposed budget. So our planned revenue also assumes a 6% decline in our undergraduate enrollment, a 2% tuition increase, and 2% increase in mandatory fees. We did not increase fees last year, as well as adjustments for room and board and adjustments for dining services. We also anticipate some use of fund balance, but we haven't decided on the final amount yet, since there will be no additional American Rescue Plan funds or those HERF funds that were distributed previously. As you know, the budgets are working their way through the state legislature. So as soon as we hear more about that in April, we can define our budgets a little bit better in terms of what the actual budgets will be. And we'll be coming out with a final budget by the end of May, and we'll also distribute what we called our annual budget document sometime in early July. So just something I wanted to also point out about the budget this year. Obviously, the pandemic has impacted our students in many ways and our institution. We know that, we see that in our enrollment changes. We also want to stay relevant and affordable to our students. So we are also planning on this budget for an increase in our student institutional aid of approximately 10%. Currently this year, we budgeted $12.7 million for aid. We're looking to increase that to $14 million next year. Obviously, there's a major increase in demand from students for more financial aid. And the good news is that SU, since 2016, has been increasing its institutional aid. We've more than doubled what we provide to students in terms of institutional aid and scholarships. So I just wanted to share that with you. And also one last thing on budget. Next summer, we are going to embark on a study to take a look at our fees and our tuition. Our goal is basically to set a strategic plan, staying relevant and staying affordable about where our tuition and fees should be and what they should look like, how they're allocated, et cetera, given the, the higher education landscape and the competition that we are trying to address currently.
Thank you, Dr. J. We'll return to our shared governance heads right now. And Anita, you should be able to turn on your video and address the group.
Okay, thank you, Dr. White. So yes, sorry, I was late. Gen Chem exam tomorrow morning, so I was teaching. And forgive me if this wasn't quite appropriate, but I was thinking there would be folks here who may not know quite how the Faculty Senate operates. So I wanted to just spend a little time talking about that. I missed the beginning, so I'm sure others may have, but I wanted to certainly make sure that I thank everyone, faculty, staff, students, and the administration for working together through the pandemic. I know personally, based on that stress levels and burnout could be at kind of record levels, but I do think we are continuing to attempt to offer excellent education to our students and that our students are continuing to learn. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for all that you have done. And next, I wanted to point out that the faculty and the Faculty Senate, I do believe, have been rather productive this year. I realize that the Faculty Senate only works really well if faculty are passionate about its role and serve on it in its committee. So before I talk about anything else, I want to say thank you to the faculty senators, to the faculty who serve on the committees, and the faculty in general for their time and their input. I know everyone's busy. So I hope that those highlight emails that I have been sending out this year to all faculty mentioning some key information that was presented or decisions that were made at Faculty Senate meetings have been beneficial and that they've helped with transparency from both the administration and the Faculty Senate. And while I'm talking about transparency, I wanted to point out that we do not post the link for our Zoom meetings on our website, largely for concern of possible cyber attacks. But the announcement of each Faculty Senate meeting with the agenda, the attachments, and the webinar link is sent to the president of each governance body for each meeting. And so then I thought I'd tell you a little bit, I guess, about some things that the Faculty Senate has been working on and some things that we are continuing to work on. I'll ask your forgiveness if there's something important I should have mentioned that I do not. And before I do that, though, I did want to point out that there always are some things to keep in mind about how the Faculty Senate functions. We have to be sure that we hear from and consider multiple viewpoints, and that takes time. And we do that to try to always find the best way forward for SU. And then given the role that the Faculty Senate has as the voice to the administration and its adherence to parliamentary procedures and our bylaws, we must keep in mind that the Faculty Senate can't just, do whatever it wants, however it wants, whenever it wants. But I do think that if we continue to work together with careful deliberation, that the Faculty Senate can be a voice to the administration. And I believe, especially working with our other campus governance bodies, we can, albeit perhaps slowly, make a difference. And then just some things that I wanted to mention that the Faculty Senate has accomplished this year. We did make some policy changes, I think, that help students, and thank you to the APC for those. We made some changes in the academic misconduct policy that will limit external reporting of minor incidents. We made a new policy for conflicts of required activities with scheduled classes. And we did make a recommendation to the faculty to, where possible, extend the emergency absence policy to 2 weeks for students who were coded yellow or had approved medical reasons for missing class. And we also provided as much input as we could manage regarding the presidential search. We did do a reconsideration of the Faculty Welfare Committee report for the faculty that are impacted by the pandemic, and the provost has approved that recommendation. We, I'm hoping, are going to possibly find some better assistance for both faculty and students who need DRC testing accommodations in the evening. And so Jessica Clark, the assistant provost for faculty success, just sent out a survey, I believe, to faculty who are teaching in the evening. So I'm going to ask faculty to please respond to that. We have clarified some of the wording, I believe, for the SLOs for Gen Ed. And we did send a recommendation forward to the provost regarding every campus of refuge and having SU join that effort. And of course, that is something that is very concerning in today's times. And the provost has already replied with some information about that in her remarks for tomorrow's Faculty Senate meeting. And she will continue to let us know what it is plausible for SU to do in that regard. We did submit to the provost from the financial Faculty Financial Oversight Committee a request to obtain data, and the FFOC, as we call them, are working on that data. Eventually, they will make a report to the Faculty Senate, which of course then would be discussed in a public to the faculty. The Faculty Senate officers are currently discussing with FFOC and the provost the idea of having a possible academic affairs town hall regarding the budget. And this town hall is not meant to be that meeting. And I just wanted to point out, for the sake of time, as well as presentation and interpretation of some complex data, that if we have that meeting, when we do, it would need to largely be restricted to that focus for academic affairs. And then we did start considering the report and recommendations of the work group on diversity, equity, and inclusion and tenure and promotion. We had some standing committees take a look at that, give us some information. And these are, of course, very tough conversations with very important and very broad impact. And so I believe at this point, the intent of the Faculty Senate seems to be to solicit input from faculty in a variety of methods before making any decisions. We do have 2 motions that I sent out today that will, I expect, be considered at tomorrow's meeting to obtain input from each of the 6 units, as well as possibly a Faculty Senate town hall. And then, of course, the humongous change that we have been working on and keeping our eye on is to essentially execute the will of the faculty regarding the all faculty vote from last year to transform our general education program to the new model. And so we have had faculty senators create motions to establish the ad hoc committee that worked diligently over the summer as well as into this semester. M&E ran the elections to actually get the GEOC and its advisory subcommittees established with faculty working on them. Those committees are now working, and we are hopefully on target to actually transform our general education program as planned. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, President Brown. The Faculty Senate is a really important part of shared governance, and I really appreciate your strong leadership of this group over this past year. So thank you very much. Eli, I think that does it for the shared governance groups, and we now turn to the participants' questions. I know that some of the questions have come in to stay informed at salisbury.edu, but we also have a couple of questions in the Q&A.
Thanks, Dr. White. So the first question, I think you'll probably be sending to Dr. Wormock. It's related to the merit and COLA pay structure. And Dr. Wormock, if you would go ahead and turn your video on, I will, so that I know that you're there, I will go ahead with the question. Okay, so the question is, how was it decided that merit pay should be a percentage of salary rather than the same for everyone qualifying? Who feels unfair that higher salaries will also receive more merit pay? Who decided this, and how can we change it?
Well,
So
thank
it's
you for
about
that question.
merit pay and COLA allocation percentages.
Yes, thank you, Eli, and thank you for that question. That's a good question. Number one, I want to help you understand that pay is decided within our USM policies and also by our system and our guidelines within those policies. This year, the chancellor provided guidance to us and also let us know exactly what the percentage would be for merit pay. What SU, with that guidance from the chancellor, what SU does is pays our employees fairly and based on their performance. So that's what merit pay is about. And so the decision and guidance from USM was to pay our employees the merit pay for all those employees who meets or I guess exceeds their performance in their work. And the other question, the other part of the question, just looking, we are also evaluating and conducting a compensation review of our non-exempt as well as, and will be conducting a review of our exempt employees. So we'll take your question forward and review that as we're looking at the USM policy and what our study tells us. So thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Wormack. I'm going to ask Drs. Olmsted and Faust to join in case there's any additional information to this question, but it is, has there been any progress regarding the February 18th disruption during the Black History Month web presentation? Who was responsible? So, you know, this was something that was very unfortunate that took place on a Zoom that was hosted through a private account. And subsequently, we talked to students who were involved in organizing and hosting the event, and worked with the Student Government Association, with the SUPD, and the Office of Information Technology to really provide the resources and information about how we can better protect our virtual events, similar to ways that we make sure we're protecting our in-person events. So a big piece of this was communication, working with various departments and divisions to ensure that students, faculty, and staff had the resources necessary to keep their events safe. And Dr. Olmsted, if you had anything to add there.
No, that's right. And that link for those resources, those best practices, was sent out in the first Monday email today. And Dr. Faust, I think you sent it out as well, campus-wide, just so everybody knows what the best practices are to keep your Zoom events safe.
Correct. And additionally, we made a lot of hard copies. I don't like to waste paper, but I know people absorb things in different kinds of ways. So at Forum yesterday, we handed out hard copies of those same materials to students there. And we made sure in student affairs that each of the units of student affairs also had those hard copies.
Thank you. And just a reminder to, you can send questions to stayinformed@salisbury.edu or post them in the Q&A or the chat. So we have two questions in the Q&A. The first is, are faculty and staff given a chance to weigh in on our budgets before they are sent to the legislature? We are only now getting to see the detailed FY22 budget, and it sounds like the budget for FY23 has already been completed and sent to the Maryland legislature. So just as a process question, and Dr. Wormack, I invite you to add to this, but our budget is submitted as part of the University System of Maryland budget in the governor's budget. So we are a piece of the USM, and the USM is a piece of the executive branch of state government. And so that's all submitted under the governor's budget. So we as an institution do not get to change that number. We certainly have the ability to prioritize with our allocation and move funds within divisions based on the strategic plan and needs of the institution, but we do not have the ability to adjust the number that is in the governor's budget, as it is a part of the systems budget, and the systems budget is part of the governor's budget. Dr. Wormack, do you have anything to add there?
Thank you, Eli. That's exactly right. But once we know the governor's budget, each division head at the university makes decisions about what projects and priorities and initiatives will go forward. So we're working within the framework of the governor's budget, but certainly our chief academic officer, our chief student affairs officer, et cetera, makes decisions about how to prioritize our programs and projects for that. So there is an opportunity for our divisional areas to weigh in on what is going forward, what gets changed, and what initiatives they'd like to see.
If I could comment, we do have a strategic budgeting and planning committee that includes representation from all shared governance groups, and there are others there as well. To me, the challenge as a division head is the swing on our total budget amount. So if enrollments end up one place, we'll end up with one total budget that can be allocated out. If they end up in another place, the number will be different. If we're given permission pretty late in the process to use some fund balance that you talked about, Dr. Wormack, that will give us a little more breathing room if we're not given that permission. So we're really kind of jockeying between, kind of a much lower setting and maybe a little bit higher. So right now, instead of prioritizing projects, at least in the Division of Academic Affairs, we're trying to make sure we can cover the salaries that we already have and the operational expenses for the programs that are already in place, as well as the two priorities I've put forward are covering the implementation of our general education curriculum and the faculty development associated with that, as well as addressing salary compression of faculty.
Thank you both. The next question is about building door locks that have been in place during COVID. So the question is, when will building doors like the GSU, GAC, Holloway be unlocked day to day again? That's a really good question. I think if you've tuned into the president's briefings, he's frequently talked about the regularity with which the university health team and the executive staff are looking at changes. And I think you've seen that with the relaxation of the mask policy, the measured approach that the health team has taken. I think it's fair to say that the executive staff is taking a similar approach to operations that have been curtailed as it relates to the pandemic. And that's one of the things that we're talking about on the regular basis. Right now, that is still a way to ensure that, or help us ensure that those who are non-compliant with SU protocols are not accessing buildings, but certainly that's also something that's going to be looked at. And I would encourage you, if there's a more specific question or element of that question there, to share via Stay Informed or with the anonymous system on the president's website. The next question relates to fall break. And the question is, as the university explores the idea of a fall break, how can we make sure that staff are a part of that break? All too often, faculty and students benefit from those types of things and staff gets left out. I'm going to ask if both Drs. Olmsted and Wormack could comment on that. I know that some of it has to do with days allocated off, but Dr. Olmsted, could you talk a little bit about how you're going to go about serving and looking for info and feedback about a potential fall break?
Yeah, I got to get this back up to the top of my list because fall will be here before we know it. But Marty Hunter, our registrar, and Melissa Bogie, Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs, have looked through our calendars for the next several years, and it seems like a mini break, not a break, but a mini break is feasible for fall and would be beneficial for all the reasons we can think of. I've taken that to the Faculty Senate. They asked a really good question, and that is, do we have data that fall breaks are beneficial in the ways that we'd want them to be? And so we've gotten some resources together on that. Actually, I have to take that back to the Faculty Senate. This is also something on the USM's radar. They're interested in having this maybe be a little bit a broader, more system-wide approach. So I would expect, I don't know if it'll happen for this fall, but I think we're going to try to figure out a way to do probably a Monday or Tuesday or Friday or Monday, something like that, just to give people a little bit of a breathing room.
Thank you, Dr. Olmsted. This question has come up before, and in relation to that, HR and the benefits office is taking a look. We're doing several things, and we'd love to include our staff in that conversation. What we're doing is taking a look at what are the holidays and days off for our colleagues across the USM system. It is time to revisit post-COVID world. We need to revisit what those holidays look like and what that leave looks like, just like Dr. Olmsted mentioned. So we are taking a look at that, and we'll join probably Dr. Olmsted's team in their review of that to determine what days would be beneficial to all of us. And certainly we'll take comments from our staff about those days.
Thank you both. And then I just have a comment here. This person is the co-leader of the local AAUP chapter, and they want to echo what Anita Brown said and support the idea of a separate academic affairs town hall specifically on the budget. They really appreciate how detailed the FY22 budget report is, but there's so much information to go through that they really would like a separate conversation.
And I'll just say, we're happy to do that, but I'd like to work with the Faculty Senate, and they've charged their Faculty Financial Oversight Committee to take a look at the data. So I think once that group has had a chance to dig in on that data, that we will be setting that kind of budget overview up and dig in on it. But I think it's important that we operate within the shared governance structure that we have on campus.
Thank you all for your input. Dr. White, that does it for the questions that have come in, sir.
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate everybody joining us for this town hall. If you submitted questions or if you have additional questions, go ahead and send them to stayinformed@salisbury.edu, and we'll make sure that you get an answer. I'd like to thank again the heads of the shared governance groups who participated today, and as well as those members of my executive staff who were here to answer some of the tough questions. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your participation, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.